Hi, Landon. We're here today to talk about sweet potato slips. So, what are sweet potato slips?
So sweet potato slips are what you grow to get sweet potatoes, as compared to starting them from seed. Sweet potato seeds are kind of rare. Almost all of them are bred from slips, which are actually sprouts that come directly off of the sweet potatoes. This is kind of similar to the same idea as eyes on a normal potato. You can actually see it a little bit on this sweet potato right here. These little tiny nodules. Let's see if I can bring that in a little closer.
Okay, a little bit, yeah.
Those are actually going to turn into big green sprouts. And each one of those can turn into a sweet potato. So what you want to do is encourage the sprouting, and then you can actually rip them right off the sweet potatoes, stick them in a little water, and they'll develop their own roots. And each sweet potato can produce up to 50 slips of its own.
Wow, cool.
And that's the other reason that it's a good idea to start your own, is because it can be a little bit expensive to buy them, but since sweet potatoes are pretty cheap and you can get so many plants out of each sweet potato, it's worthwhile to do.
And now if we're planting 800 bed feet of sweet potatoes, how many slips do we need?
About 800.
Whoa, baby. Okay, let's get started then. Alright, so we have a bunch of pans lined up by the window on top of heat mats. What's the deal?
So you can see these are grow mats right here. They just produce a little bit of heat and they help keep the soil temperatures up. I like to use these cheap aluminum pans because we're going to load them up with sweet potatoes. They're pretty inexpensive and they're good at conducting the heat back up into the soil. What we like to do is dump a little bit of this, just your standard potting soil, right in the bottom there. Just a little bit of something for the sweet potatoes to rest on top of, because the slips aren't just green shoots, they do actually start producing roots, and I kind of like to encourage that even before I rip them off. Then you can, once you get a little bit of this germination mix right in there, put the potatoes right in there, right on top.
Alright.
And then you can cover them up. The potting soil. Need to be totally covered. There's probably a little bit more potting soil than I need. I'll throw out one of these other pans here. And then over the next several weeks, what you're going to want to do is keep this potting soil nice and moist. You can do that with just like a little spritzer gun. And make sure that the temperature stays up from the heat mats underneath, or that they're in a nice warm place.
Now, Landon, do you have to spritz it now that you loaded it up with potting soil? Or?
I will do that once I finish loading these up. I'll spritz it all down.
And do you want a little bit of that sweet potato exposed so that you can tell there's like a corpse in there?
No, it's not necessary that you see it, but it's also not a problem if you can see where the sweet potatoes are in the pan.
Okay, cool. Thanks. Okay, Landon, so you're also going to tell us about a different method of starting sweet potato slips that might be a little more conducive to the close quarters of city life.
Yep. So another easy way to start sweet potato slips is you can take a sweet potato, cut it right in half, and then what you're actually going to do is put these sweet potatoes in jars of water. These are just a couple of mason jars that we had lying around. And you want to get it so it's sitting about part way into the water. And the way I like to do that is just use a couple of these little skewers here. That'll help get it to sit up in the water. And you can use each half to start your own slips. You can see it's just sitting in the water partially. I might actually move that down a little bit more so it's a little bit more in the water. And then just put this in a nice sunny window and you'll get sprouts off the sweet potato.
And do you need to spritz this too? The exposed part?
Nope, you don't. You can just let it sit like that. Water will come up through the sweet potato and the sprouts will come off the top.
And there are going to be roots coming out of the bottom of the sweet potato, right?
Yeah.
And then the slips are going to look like a chia pet hair, but bigger.
Oh, maybe not that dense. But same idea. Once they get nice and tall, usually you want to get them to be about 4 inches. You can just rip the sweet potato slips right off the sweet potato, stick them in their own jar of water, and then those will root off of there.
And how long do they stay in water after you've ripped them off the sweet potato?
You want to make sure that they really develop their roots, so I would do it for at least a couple of weeks.
Okay.
But you also don't want to just sitting around forever, and you might want to change the water every now and again so that it doesn't get gross.
Let's take one more look at that upsetting sweet potato. This method I find to be somewhat unnerving. They're both unnerving, but they're exciting because you get sweet potatoes in the end. Well, thanks, Landon. Look forward to checking on the progress.